Hello, I'm Jesus Yamas. I'm employed at the Roselle Johnson Funeral Service. I'm currently a student at Ivy Tech, and I will be playing Horton and Seussical the Musical at Main Stage. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored, and I have kinks in my leg. From just sitting here day after day. It's work, how I hate it, I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for the rest, if I could find someone to stay on my nest. If I could find someone, I'd fly away, free. Then Horton the elephant passed by her tree. Hello, called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've nothing to do, and I need a rest. Would you like to sit on my egg in my nest? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't got feathers and I haven't got wings. Me on your egg? Why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense. Tut, tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it, no trouble at all. Just sit on it softly, you're gentle and kind. Come, be a good fellow, I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be gone long, sir, I give you my word. I'll hurry right back, while I'll never be missed. Very well, said the elephant, since you insist. You want a vacation, go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg and I'll try not to break it. I'll stay and be faithful, I mean what I say. Toodaloo, sang Maisie and fluttered away. The first thing to do, murmured Horton. Let's see. The first thing to do is prop us up in this tree. And make it much stronger, it has to be done. Before I get on it, I must weigh a ton. Then carefully, tenderly, gently he crept up to the trunk, to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton the elephant smiled, now that's that. And he sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he sat all that day long, and kept the egg warm, and he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened, it thundered and rumbled. This isn't much fun, the poor elephant grumbled. I wish he'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and I'm wet. I hope Maisie doesn't forget. But Maisie, by this time, was far beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach. And having such fun, such a wonderful rest, decided she'd never go back to her nest. So Horton kept sitting there day after day, and soon it was autumn, the leaves blew away. And then came the winter, the snow and the sleet, and icicles hung from his trunk and his feet. But Horton kept smiling and said with a sneeze, I'll stay on this egg and I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. So poor Horton sat there through the whole winter through, and then came springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered around and they shouted with glee. Look, Horton the elephant up in a tree. They taunted, they teased him, and they yelled, how absurd. Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird. They laughed, and they all ran away, and Horton was lonely, he wanted to play. But he sat on the egg and continued to say, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. No matter what happens, this egg must be tended. But poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there, so faithful, so kind, 3 hunters came sneaking up softly behind. He heard the men's footsteps, he turned with a start. 3 rifles were aiming right straight at his heart. Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on that nest. He held his head high, and he threw out his chest. And he looked at the hunters as much to say, shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. But the men didn't shoot, much to Horton's surprise. They dropped their 3 guns, and they looked with wide eyes. Look, they all shouted, can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree? It's strange, it's amazing, it's wonderful new. Don't shoot him, we'll catch him. That's just what we'll do. Let's take him alive, why he's terribly funny. We'll sell him back home to a circus for money. And the first thing he knew, they had built a big wagon with ropes on the front for the pullers to drag on. They dug up the trees and they put him inside, with Horton so sad he practically cried. "We're off," the men shouted, and off they all went, with Horton unhappy 100%. Up out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains 10,000 feet high. Then down the mountains and down to the sea went the cart with the elephant, egg, nest, and tree. Then out of a wagon and onto a ship, out over the oceans, and ooh, what a trip. Rolling and tossing and splashing with the spray, and Horton said day after day after day, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. But oh, am I seasick, 100%. After bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed at last in the town of New York. All ashore the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton the elephant, still sitting on his perch. Tied on to the board that could just scarcely hold him, bump, Horton landed, and the men sold him. Sold to a circus, then week after week they showed him to people at 10 cents a peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Week Haven, and Washington too, to Dayton, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, to Drake, North Dakota. And everywhere thousands of folks flocked to see and laugh at the elephant up in a tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the farther he went, but he said as he sat in the hot, noisy tent, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. Then, one day, the circus show happened to reach a town way down south not far from Palm Beach. And dawdling along up way in the sky, who, of all people, should chance to fly by? But the old good-for-nothing bird runaway Maisie, still on vacation and still just as lazy. And spying the flags with the tents just below, she sang, 'What fun! Why, I'll go to the show!' And she swooped from the clouds through the open tent door. 'Good gracious,' gasped Maisie, 'I've seen you before.' Poor Horton looked up with his face white as chalk. He started to speak, but before he could talk, there rang out the noisiest ear-splitting squeaks from the egg he had sat on for 51 weeks. A thumping, a bumping, a wad alive scratching. 'My egg!' shouted Horton. 'My egg! Why, it's hatching!' 'But it's mine!' screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. The work is all done, now she wanted it back. 'It's my egg,' she sputtered. 'You stole it from me. Get off my nest and get out of my tree.' Poor Horton backed down with a sad, heavy heart. But at the very instant the egg burst apart, and out from the pieces of red and white shell, from the egg that he had sat on so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and tails and a trunk just like his. And the people came shouting, 'What all is this about?' They looked and they stared with their eyes popping out. Then they cheered and they cheered and they cheered more and more. They'd never seen anything like this before. 'My goodness, my gracious,' they shouted, 'my word, it's something brand new. It's an elephant bird.' And it should be like that, because Horton was faithful. He sat and he sat. He meant what he said and he said what he meant, and they sent him home happy 100%.